Um, well, back in those early days, Central Districts had an under-14 and under-16 comp in the local association. So I then played for Central Districts under-14s and under-16s. Then the Elizabeth High School entered a team into that, and you had to play for the school. So I then played for the school and then into under-17s and 19s and a handful of reserves games. I desperately wanted to play league football, but in the end I had to admit it just wasn't quite good enough. I was lucky to play with the likes of Sonny Morey and Gary Window, Jim Bentley. They played a few reserves games, but normally they were in the league side. But yeah, they were the top players in those days. Well, I thought I might go and play local association footy, and I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. And so I just had a little spell for a while, and then decided I was offered a full-time job with Centrals, looking after their accounts and doing a little bit of fundraising and a bit of recruiting. And I just loved the club so much, I thought that's for me. Oh, look, it was hard times. The footy club had only been up and running in league since '64, and it wasn't easy for them because under the rules, they could really only get footballers from other clubs who weren't making it, trying to get players from their zone, which was the Barossa, but everybody was entrenched into Port Adelaide or Nord in that area, so they weren't real keen to come down. So it was a pretty hard slog back in the early days. But yeah, once I started, we started to gain a bit of credibility. I think it's both to a degree, but we did have to work hard off the field. We really had to get out into our zone and get people to understand what the opportunities were. And prior to me, the committee had purchased freehold property right next door to the Oval and had a small licensed club, and that was probably the best decision that anyone could make because that helped us set up and grow from there on. Brian Ashmead was the general manager at the time, and he and the club parted ways, so they asked me just to fill in as an acting because it all happened very quickly and I never left. Oh, look, I think it was that English flavour, and that's something that the club built on, hence the Bulldogs and all that English soccer theme we sort of took on board. And one person who really helped in that area too was Daryl Hicks. When he became coach, he decided that we should wear a white Guernsey because it's what looked like a soccer jersey. And in actual fact, Daryl wasn't only a good coach, he was a fairly good marketer as well. Yes, that was huge. We were never not going to, but it was all new to us, and it was almost like going back to school for me. But we took it on, and we had the finances to be able to buy the machines, and so it's turned out a very, very good boom for us. I think mainly because our licensed club was set up was such that we had the space and that we could almost introduce them straight away. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. That then enabled us to expand the licensed club, and we borrowed $2 million in the end of '99 to build the club as it is at the moment, and that has just worked wonders for us. Oh, look, they all had something to offer in their own little way. Cowboy was fairly laid back. Alan Stewart was very, very intense. I'll go back to Daryl Hicks, of course, who I thought was terrific, and he really got us on the way. Neil Curley, we probably didn't get the success that we probably should have, but he helped us in terms of sponsorship and all those sorts of things. And then, of course, Peter Jonas and Roy Laird. Well, he did. He actually had finished playing and he was involved as a runner and a sort of an assistant coach. And we got Daryl Hicks back on board as the reserves coach at the time. And then he involved Roy because he knew that he had an astute footy brain. So Daryl sort of got him involved a bit more. And he said to us at one stage, Darryl said, this bloke's ready to coach. And so we appointed him the reserves coach, and he coached for 2 years with 1 premiership, 2 grand finals, 1 premiership. And then there was the departure of Alistair Clarkson, and we just felt Roy was ready. Well, in terms of recruiting, I think the great thing there was that our then president, Les Stevens, said, look, we've got to make the next step. And we were always very careful with our recruiting in terms of budget-wise, and he said, no, let's just extend that. We've got to extend ourselves to get the right people. And I might point out there was no salary cap at that point, so so that enabled us just to go that little bit further. And in terms of the Gowans, well, Daniel Healy had come back. They'd both met each other at St Kilda. So Daniel Healy returned, and then he sort of suggested we follow them up. And the Gowans have so much respect for Daniel that, contrary to what everybody says and what the Gowans say, they're always going to come to Centrals. So, I can't sort of put my hand up for being the head recruiter in that regard. That was really about Daniel Healy. Well, it was interesting there in the first couple of weeks. I think it was James who wasn't playing that well, or it was a bit undisciplined, and so Jonah had him in the reserves. And their father Peter came over, and all of a sudden it was going to be, right, we're going home, this is not on. But we got over that, and they took the whole competition by storm. The supporters just fell in love with them, and they had a massive impact, not only on our club, but footy in South Australia. And I think we were always fairly competitive. We played in finals. We couldn't win finals, that was the issue, but we played in lots of finals. I think we were a pretty colourful side. I think we brought a new form of supporter to the game, but we just couldn't quite get a finals win to give us some confidence. But I think going back to what you said, that bit of recruiting that we did in those years just enabled us to take the next step. And I think Peter Jonas needs credit too, because he had a game plan that we didn't quite have the players to suit. So again, once we were able to recruit those right players, it all gelled together. Well, the year went on, and you could sense we were gaining more and more confidence, and we just had an attitude that we're in confidence that we can't be beaten. And the players we recruited, they were good senior leaders, and that was pretty critical to the whole thing. And the Gowans, they would drive training because they were so competitive against each other. They would make everyone else competitive. And if you didn't pull the line, you were told, and told in no uncertain circumstances. Because we were successful, then kids wanted to be there. So, we were starting to get the good kids who wanted to come and play with us. So the success definitely had a bearing on all aspects of the footy club. In that year, the likes of Daniel Healy, Marco Bello, Matthew Slade, who he really started to grow. So, yeah, I could name quite a few. Unfortunately, John's knees were gone, and as much as he always said that he would come back and play, and he just tried to get going, but he just couldn't. It was just unfortunate. Oh yes, he's there at most games and helps us out with lots of our fundraising. He's an Elizabeth and Central's boy through and through. We probably weren't hit as hard as some of the other clubs, the Nords and the Woodville West Torrens, the Glenelgs. But I think we just had the ability to top up with recruits. And of course, again, because of our success, recruits wanted to come to your club. For years we had to put up with competing with the Glenelgs and the Nords and what have you, and we'd all bring the same player over, and they'd take them down Jetty Road or the parade, and then we'd bring them up to Elizabeth, and the old waterback trick had come into play. So it was pretty hard slog. But once we were successful, they wanted to come. Well, the Crows were the first, of course, and that was interesting. I recall that the league got all of us CEOs and presidents involved, and we all had to go over to Melbourne and meet with the VFL clubs to try and convince them that Adelaide was the right way to go. So it was all pretty full-on political stuff at that time. Well, we just had to work very hard with the league. But again, I think it's because we are that community club that we retained pretty well most of our supporters. I mean, we all suffered a drop, but you just had to grin and bear it and do the best you could. Oh, no doubt, it is still the second best competition in my book. But it's hard, and yeah, I'm a little bit concerned for the future with the fact of what are the two AFL clubs going to do, etc., etc. But I think there's still a healthy support. I don't think our crowds are ever going to get to any great heights now, but I'm hopeful that what you see at the moment is what we're going to continue to get. We just need to try and attract the younger player, the younger person. And I think if you have a look at the way things have gone, there's more and more players who are senior age that are now getting recruited to the AFL because they've had a couple of years playing against men. Well, you might find this hard to believe, but I'm still involved. I just, because I've known Paul Thomas for a long time, since he was 2 days old, to be quite honest, so I just sort of do a couple of little things for him on the bench on match days, and probably do a little bit of player mentoring with a couple of players. Well, not a lot, because footy's consumed my life, so just enjoying retirement and enjoying my involvement. I think the one good thing about being involved in the footy club is you mix with young people. So if I mix with everybody my age, they tell me how many pills they take a day or how many times they've been to the doc. So I'd rather go to the footy and they can all tell me to get nicked.